Just 1 minute and we'll get to the show. Alright, welcome to One Game Dad. I'm the proverbial One Game Dad, also known as Gregory Palaci. And this is the second attempted recording at the pilot episode. So hopefully this time there's actually going to be a lot less pausing. There's going to be a lot less dead air, a lot fewer ums and ahs and all that other really boring stuff. And there we go. See? It's already happened. But the purpose of this show is for me to talk about being a parent, culture, and creativity. And I'm doing this in part because I don't have a lot of time being a stay-at-home dad to play games. I don't have time to create podcasts. I do get to listen to a lot of podcasts because with a 7-month-old daughter, there's not a whole lot going on. Well, in terms of conversations. Not that she doesn't have a lot going on. She's got a very full schedule and it kills my schedule entirely. But she is what my life is about. And that's not a bad thing. I love her. And being a stay-at-home dad is a new experience. Having been a journalist before and an aid worker, it's different. It's a lot of work in a vastly different manner. But it's boring. It is so boring. When you're used to having puzzles and mental stimulation, it's something. I don't want to say my daughter's boring, but just taking care of a baby, children, was never my goal. I want to do something more with my life. I want to have a career. I want my wife to have a career. And in order for that to happen, in order for us to have kids, one of us at the moment has to be a stay-at-home parent. And that falls to me, in part because my wife is the one to have gotten a job I've been unemployed for effectively 2 years now, since coming to Finland. I've done some journalism and communications work, but that's all freelance. And freelance, doesn't always pay the bills. It's also something that can be quite hard to do when I don't need a cat. I already have a cat. Freelance is a hard thing to do when you feel like you have to work all the time. And you can't work all the time when you've got a kid. So, yeah. Being in Finland has its challenges, and not just because it's leaving me speechless and creating dead air on what, for some, is an audio medium. If you're watching the live stream or you're watching this on YouTube, then you're conceivably enjoying it. Ooh. Okay. But oh wow, that was fast. Yeah. Okay, this mission I may have to cancel. It's... Yeah. Okay. Let me put it this way. To do anything these days, you have to keep working in whatever that means. If you're in a creative industry or semi-creative, you have to be producing. And it's hard to be producing when you have a child. Which is in part, it's hard to even be consuming when you have a child. In the evenings, I am dead tired. I'm up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to bed at 10. And that's in part because I just can't stay awake any longer and want to sleep. And so doing that, yeah, it's a schedule that's necessary given when my daughter wakes up if I want to achieve anything throughout the day. It's not ideal, but it's what works currently. And yeah, so this podcast is my attempt at getting to play games. It's my attempt at getting to produce something. It's an attempt to get my thoughts out about any number of things. Because, well, I love video games. I love stories. I love analysis. I like to hear my own voice too from time to time. And, it can be really hard. It can be really hard. Wow. Damn, Malik. It can be really hard to do much of anything with a child, and I don't want that to be the case. I want to go to the gym. I want to play rugby. I want to have a social life. I want to do things. I don't just want to be another parent at home. Another person that their life has been taken over by their child. Because there is so much more. Well, there should be so much more. And, gaming's part of that. Live streaming. If you call this a vlog, if you call this a podcast, whatever it is. There's elements to what's going on in my life that isn't encapsulated solely by it's not there's more in my head. Wow. Not now, clearly, because it just got removed by that bullet. There's there are things I want to do that I want to share that I don't feel like I get to just being at home. You know, just being with a child who can't have a conversation. Not that this is the best way to have a conversation when I am the only person watching my own show or potentially listening to it. But, you know, okay. We're playing a game I really enjoy. Tokyo 42. An isometric top-down, not top-down, an isometric shooter, which is for all intents and purposes cyberpunk, set upon the rooftops of a future Tokyo. And it is gorgeous. It is... it's what I want, what I need right now. Something quick for me to play, something relatively easy. Something just... something just interesting. And I like it. Well, the challenge level from everything is well, I want to make games. More succinctly, I want to tell stories, and I don't really have a way of doing that right now. That's why I'm creating a podcast. That's why I have this show. Oh, I thought I just defeated them, but I didn't. Yeah. I just want to make things. I have an active compulsion to just... And it is a compulsion. I have a compulsion to do things, to make things, to not just consume. And part of that is making games. Part of that is writing stories. And that's the thing. I want to tell stories. Not that this podcast is successfully doing it, but the chance to just do something, to make something, to feel like I've put something out there into the world on a regular basis is refreshing. Consumption for the sake of consumption, some consumption just to alleviate whatever is not interesting to me. I want and need to do something, and I keep repeating myself, which again doesn't make for the most interesting of entertainment. But this is a pilot episode, and in the future I plan on being less whiny. Hopefully will be more interesting, have more to say. But for the moment, I don't. But, well, I do have plenty of things to say. So, with that in mind, why don't I, ask a question? Not that there's anyone to answer said question, but it should be asked nonetheless. I want to make some games. I've been doing some in Twine, but my ideas are always bigger, or the stories I want to tell are bigger than the mechanics that are possible in them. And not a delivery mission. The I want to do something more than Twine. I mean, I'm going to be teaching a class on Twine in the future. But it's not as interesting to me as what others can do. But that said, it uses JavaScript and HTML and things that could be useful in others. You have to do some very basic programming, which is all I'm capable of right now. But then there's the fact that I'm interested in what's possible in Game Maker Studio 2. I'm interested by the possibilities of Unity, and each of them have their trade-offs. But the thing I don't have is time. It's part of why I'm doing this podcast while I'm making or playing a game, not even making something. I really should do that, but my laptop streaming capabilities aren't terribly good. And so, do I try and learn Unity to make basic games, and doing so get to learn C#, which has its applications, but it's really only for games? Or do I go to Game Maker Studio 2, which has its own language and isn't applicable to anything else, though it may help me learn things? Or do I just stick with Twine because I can do it quickly and put it out there, and it ideally helps me work on CSS and JavaScript? But even that is limited, and that's the thing. I want to do more, and it's all trade-offs. Twine is nice, but I want a greater level of interactivity. I don't want just clicks of the mouse. I want to tell stories that have more to them, that have more freedom in them. For example, I would love to make a game that's that kind of flips the idea of the power simulator that is most shooters. I want to the way I imagine it is that you fall to a planet in a drop pod as an all-powerful super soldier. Have multiple weapons at your disposal, but and you can upon landing you are swarmed by these alien creatures, and you can fight them off but they just keep coming. Their bodies pile up, and you go through your ammo and your armors until you are left with your last I don't know. Yeah, till you are left with your last till you're left with just your fists. And you are fighting these creatures off. But if you don't fight them in the beginning, then you have the opportunity to do something else, to explore, to build, to use those very same weapons that you have to reshape the terrain, to do something else. And that's what I want to see. I imagine I imagine it being, I don't know, voxel based, and you are shaping the world. You're building something alongside these creatures. You're reestablishing society. You're creating something. You're not just destroying. You have that option to just destroy in the beginning, to consume yourself, and in doing so become disempowered. But through creating, through not fighting, you get to do something more on this alien planet. And that, I think, would be really interesting. Well, for me, it would be really interesting. I think it would flip the majority design on it, and or at least for shooters. And yeah, I just want to see something like that. I think there's stories to be told there, and of course it's a very emergent story from a game, but there's nothing wrong with that either. And yeah, I'd just like to see something different. For example, I want to see a game. I want to see an action RPG similar to Diablo, or what's the other one? Diablo, Bastion, anything like that. I'm really blanking on it. Yeah. Diablo. Think Diablo. But rather than failure being death and resetting, you're saved. You're saved by an NPC that you've made friends with. But if you haven't made friends with them, then you go back in time for your character's story to when you first encounter them, to when you save them, so that you're building these stories of these characters through their actions. You're doing something like there's a history. It's not just about the slaughter. And I think that would be really interesting. I just think you could do so much by aiming to, yeah, try some different things. Like why does video game doesn't have to be death. I mean, for example, I just died, but it respawns me, and there's story implications as to why I'm respawned. I'm taking a pill that enables me to come back to life with however I last was. And that's fantastic. And there's plenty of spawn locations. Like, the story of this game makes sense for the world, for what I'm doing. Other than the fact that I'm going around killing a shitload of people who themselves supposedly take the same drug, all of society is, and they can come back. But the cops don't come when I start shooting. No one comes. Sometimes more bad guys come, and that's all well and good. But, yeah. I mean, there's some weird things about this game. But I would love to see an action RPG where it's not death. You're learning things about your character's story. You're doing something else. Like, there are consequences to your actions, and you're fighting hordes of monsters. Oh, that's interesting. That just... Wow. Yeah, you're fighting hordes of monsters, but it's not the end of it. You're building this character story, similar to what Conan the Barbarian. You're basically creating these pulp fiction, these serial stories of your adventures. So each time you play, you're going to not necessarily a new dungeon, but you're doing something new and different. You're exploring the possibilities of that genre and the storytelling potentials. And I want to make games like that. I don't have the skills. I'd love to work with others on it. But to do that, to do anything, I have to keep relevant. I have to keep making things, and that's really hard as a stay-at-home parent. Not just that, but to do... I'm at Nakatomi Plaza. To do anything in my position, I have to show that I can do it, because I'm starting from scratch. Everything and not just, I mean, I'm starting from scratch because I'm in Finland. I'm starting from scratch because I'm a stay-at-home parent. I I've effectively reset my life by coming here. And that's fine, but there's implications for that. And I just I just I want to be doing something to enable that. So when I do go back to work, when I can follow a career, if I finally sit down and write another book, because I have written a book and I was considering turning it into a Twine game, but I haven't. When I'm trying to do something, or if I am going to do anything in the future, I need to do something now. Which is in part why I have a blog, why I try and make games, why I try to do podcasts, why I'm trying to stream. It's not solely to be self-indulgent, but to remain relevant. And it's, some could say it's about being seen, and I'm not terribly good at advertising what I'm doing or sharing it. It's for me, and again, people can dispute this. For me, it's simply that this process of creation, of making something, of having something to share, having something to talk about beyond just, oh, my daughter's poo was solid today. Yay! Because it's so easy to fall into those stereotypes. And who wants that? Have, being a parent it's an adventure of a different sort, but with babies, it's pretty rote. Yeah, you could travel the world with a child. And I'd love to, but we can't. The wife has a job. The healthcare here in Finland is fantastic. It's not like we're going to pass that up. But, man, I don't want to be a stay-at-home parent forever. I can sympathize, I can empathize now more with my mother than probably previously, because there's a highly intelligent woman who 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 always had to follow my father's career. And, her career suffered for it. I mean, luckily she's managed to get the career she's wanted. But it took time. That, well, that required divorce. That, required sacrifice. And yeah, it's not easy. Nothing ever is. And I just killed a civilian because I'm not very good at this game. I'm also not very good at playing video games and talking at the same time, as you can apparently tell. But not many people are. And yeah. Yeah. So to remain relevant, I'm trying to do something. I'm trying to create a podcast where I sit around and play video games and don't say a whole lot, which is really boring. Which is why I should probably call it a day. So, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. You can find me at OneGameDad on Twitter or visit onegamedad.com. You can find this show on Twitch at OneGameDad. You can find it on YouTube at OneGameDad. Hell, you can find it probably on SoundCloud eventually at OneGameDad. And, of course, the podcast version of this will be on iTunes at OneGameDad. Thank you all for watching, and tune in again for the next episode of One Game Dad. I've been Gregory Palachi. Have a great day.